In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can get your voice AI agents from Retell AI to book directly to GHL's calendar. Before we get started, I do want to give you a demo so you can see how all this is going to work.
Thank you for calling Aria Beverly Hills. This is Sarah. How may I help you?
Hey Sarah, I want to make an appointment for a haircut for Thursday 12th.
Could you please confirm the time you'd like for your haircut on Thursday, February 12th?
No, for this Thursday at 12 p.m.
Checking availability for a haircut appointment. Unfortunately, there are no available slots at 12 p.m. this Thursday. Would you like to consider 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. instead?
Yeah, can we do 2 p.m. instead?
Great choice. I'll confirm your appointment for Thursday, February 20th at 2 p.m. Can I have your name and best phone number, please?
Yeah, my name is Alex Rodriguez and my phone number is 310-980-5556.
Booking your haircut appointment. Your haircut appointment is successfully booked for Thursday, February 20th at 2 p.m. Please bring any inspiration photos you might have. Do you have any further questions?
No, that's it actually. Yep. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye. There you have it. First, we have that contact. So I should have made that contact there with the phone number that I just gave it, 5556. And then we take a look at the calendar. It's for Thursday at 2 p.m. That's pretty much what we're going to be building today. We're going to be focusing on really understanding how to work with the API, what Retell is going to be sending us, again, so that you can go ahead and do this for any calendars and within GHL there. The way this is going to work, once a user calls, we're going to collect their preferred appointment date and time. We're going to take that information, send it to our N8N workflow, where we're going to convert the preferred date and time to Unix. The reason that we're converting this to Unix is that we take a look at the documentation from GHL and we see what's required. Part of the things is going to be a start date and an end date, both of which are a number, and that number is Unix in milliseconds. Now, it doesn't actually tell you here, but that's what it is. That's what we're going to be converting it to before making our API request, or we're going to make an API request to GHL using the specific calendar and our start date and end date. And GHL is then going to return us all the free slots. They're going to return us the free slots for those days that we selected. From there, we're going to see if the original date that the user said, for example, in my case was Thursday at 12 p.m., is it available? And if it is, great, proceed to the next step. And if it's not, tell the user and recommend it some time slots. That's kind of what happened when I called. I called and I said, hey, I want to make an appointment at 12 p.m. And it said, hey, 12 p.m. is not available, but 2 or 3 p.m. is. And it went through the whole process and then it booked the appointment. If the time is available, if it would have said, yes, it is 12 p.m. is available, what's going to happen then, it's going to ask me for my name and my phone number. Then I'm going to search for a contact in GHL because, again, if we take a look at the documentation for creating appointments, if we go to calendar events here, and then we go to create an appointment, one of the things that's required when we create an appointment is a contact ID. We need to be able to search for that caller in our CRM. We need to be able to match them up either through an email or through our phone number. In this case, we're going to be using a phone number to match them up. We're going to search GHL. GHL is going to return us an object with all those different contacts. We got to see if that person is in there. If they're an existing customer, great, we're going to book the appointment. And if they're not, we're going to create a new contact, send a request to GHL to create a contact. Then we'll go book an appointment. Then we send that information back to Retell. Next, we want to log in to our Retell AI account. Once you're logged in, you want to make sure you go to your AI agents, and then we're going to click on create an agent, and we're going to select single prompt. This will still work with the other ones as well, but just to keep things simple, we're going to select single prompt there. And I'm going to click on start from blank. I will be attaching this prompt down below with the resources. The whole focus won't be the prompt right now. The main focus is going to be actually building the functions and creating the tools to check the availability and actually book that appointment. You can see it's a very simple prompt. It's just going to be for Sarah, which is going to be a desk coordinator for Beverly Hills Hair Salon. Nothing special here. It's all pretty straightforward. What she's going to do is she's just going to greet the user, identify what the service is looking to do, and then book the appointment. We are going to determine what that service is that they're looking to book, get the user's preferred date and time, and then we're going to check the calendar availability. So that's what we're going to be building, this function here. And then we want to confirm the appointment date and time, make sure that we gather their name and phone number, and then finally book the appointment. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to click on save. For welcome message, I want to make sure that it begins with the defined message. For the functions, we're going to build our very first one right now. Now, I did have a knowledge base. That's just like stuff about the salon. You don't have to have one, but most likely in a real client, in a real scenario, you will have one. and I'll quickly show you what's in there. Just some basic information. It's all made up. It's all fake stuff about this hair salon in Beverly Hills, some of the salon policies, the services, things like the woman's haircut and conditioning. It's all pretty basic, but I did attach that knowledge basis just in case you were curious. Everything else, I'm pretty much going to leave it just as default. It's not really important. And for the models, again, everything I'm leaving as default. I'm actually going to select 4 mini here. Now we're going to work on our first function, which is going to be the check availability. Before we do that, let's actually set up our GHL account and connect our private keys. I'm going to go down to settings here. I'm going to click on settings, and then I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to click on private integrations. You can see that I don't have anything here. So I'm going to click on create new integration, and I'm just going to give this name. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. I'm just going to name this YouTube. We'll click on next. Now we're going to select the scopes. If you've never used private integrations before, it basically allows you to communicate with the API directly without having to do a marketplace app or anything like that. And it makes it really convenient, very easy to work with the API. Now, what we want to do here is select the different scopes, and all this means is the different capabilities that we want to have access to. So we take a look at documentation provided by GHL. We can see that we have all these things that we can do: campaigns, contacts, anything related to objects, conversations, custom fields. There's a bunch of different things. Now here, I want to make sure that I select anything related to the user, especially the calendars as well. So obviously we're going to be checking that. I'm going to scroll down and select all of this. I probably don't even need calendar resources, but I'm just going to select them. If you're in doubt, select everything if you like. For this example, I'm just going to select pretty much everything. Contacts for sure. Objects, I don't even need objects, so I'm not going to select that. But I'm just going to select the contacts. I don't really need anything else, but I might use the custom values there, so I can select them. I don't need tags. Actually, I might need tags. You can see I'm just selecting a bunch of different stuff. None of this other stuff I really need. I'm never going to use payment orders or custom payment providers or product prices or any of that stuff. I'm simply going to click on create. What's going to happen is this is going to be my API key. Now, obviously, don't share this with anyone. You can see mine here, but it doesn't really matter because I'm going to delete it. Now, you want to make sure that you select a copy and you save that somewhere safe. Once you exit this, you're not going to be able to see this anymore. You would have to reset it. Next, we want to log in to N8N. Now, you can go to pricing. You can sign up. It's $20 a month. There's tons of ways to install N8N. You can install this in your own server. You can install this locally. There's tons of videos on YouTube. I'll link to one of the better ones that I found for installing this on your own server. But anyways, so I'm not going to go through that. I assume that you have N8N installed. Now let's actually work on the first function, which is going to be the check availability here, to see if the user's preferred appointment date and time is actually available. We're going to go to functions. I'm actually just going to copy this so that I make sure that I label it the exact same thing. And you can name this something else if you like. It doesn't have to be called check GoHighLevel. It can be called whatever if you like. I'm going to go to custom functions. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to give it a description there. Perfect. I'm just going to give it that brief description there. Here we need a URL, and this is going to be the webhook of our N8N workflow that's going to be triggered when we call this function. Make sure that you log in to your N8N. All I have here is just an empty workflow, and I just gave it a name for YouTube get free slots here. You can name it whatever it is that you like. And we're going to click on get first step. Now here, I'm going to search for webhook, and I'm going to click this one here. You can see it's a trigger, has a little orange lightning bolt there. We want to get this test URL. I'm just going to copy this, but actually before we copy it, you'll notice it says a get right here. And what we want is to say a post. This is going to be submit a post request. We want to click here under HTTP method and then select post there. Next, we want to click on this test URL and we want to go back to retail. We're going to pop that in there. Then we want to fill this in this parameters. This is basically the data that we want to collect from the user, because otherwise we're going to get a request and there's not going to be any data associated with it. So it's not going to be very useful to us. Here, what we want to do is we want to collect a couple of pieces of information, and this will also be included with the resources down below. But basically what's going to happen here is that we want to collect some properties. The information that we want to extract from the user is going to be an appointment date time, which is going to be formatted in ISO 8601. And all that means is it's going to be easier for us to work with once we have the data. But essentially all we're doing is getting the user's appointment date and time as a string. Another piece of information that we're extracting is service. So here is obviously the name of the service that the user is interested in booking. Now that's not necessary for us to check on the availability of it, but we can use that piece of information to maybe, let's say, filter calendars and search a specific calendar. Now here, I'm just including it as a demo just to show you that we can collect more pieces of information. but that's some of the ways that it can be used. This required portion here, all this says is we want both of these pieces of information. Sometimes you might want to collect the information, but if they don't give it to you, it's not a big deal. We can move on. So maybe, they don't have to give me a service. I can still check the date and time. So I can remove that if I wanted to. In this example, I'm going to request it, but again, you don't need to. All we really need is the appointment date and time. I'll also include resources to jsonschema.org, which really gives you more breakdown into how this whole JSON schema works and the different capabilities you have, the different types and everything. So definitely suggest checking this out. I'm going to select all of this and just copy them. And then I'm going to paste that in here. All we have here is we're collecting the appointment date and time, the user's preferred appointment date and time, and then the service that they're interested in. And then this data is going to be sent to us at the moment that this function is called. And it's going to be sent to this webhook right here. Right now, we're using this test URL. You can see that there's test and there's production. For now, that's what I'm putting here. Again, paste that in there. I'm going to click on save, and then we're going to test this out. Before we test this out, we want to make sure that our webhook here is listening, because we want to get that first event so that way we can start playing with it. And once we figure it out, we're going to switch over to production. But we first need to listen. This only works when you click on the listen for event. I think it's only on for 60 seconds, so you got to be quick. I'm going to click test for event. I'm going to go back to retail, and then we're going to call this.
Thank you for calling Aria Beverly Hills. This is Sarah. How may I help you?
Hey, sir, I want to make an appointment for Thursday at 3 p.m.
I'd be happy to help. What service would you like to book for your appointment?
This is for a woman's haircut.
Let me check availability for a women's haircut on Thursday at 3 p.m. It looks like I need to check for nearby times. Would you be open to a slightly different time on Thursday?
Okay, so we made the request, and we can see here actually, again, we had listen for test event. And if we scroll down, I'm going to click on this little, on the bracket there, just so that you can see that they become smaller. That way we can see better. I'm going to click on that. I want to scroll down. And what I want is this args. Anytime that you create a tool, it's going to be under args. Whatever information that you requested, back over here, if we go back to retail, again, if we go to our function, we can see that requested appointment daytime, and then we requested services. When we take a look at the information that we received from retail, from that function call, we have appointment daytime, and then we have service. And an appointment daytime, here is the appointment. It's all formatted for us. I did say, I think what I said, Thursday at 3 p.m., which again, this is Thursday, the 20th. It should be, yep, that's the 20th at 3 p.m. Now this is in 24-hour time, so that's why it's 15, but that's 3 p.m. Perfect. I'm going to go to GHL's documentation really quick. I want to scroll up and go to calendars because we're trying to check the availability of the calendars. Let's go scroll up. And here under calendars, we see we have get free slots. Let's click on that. In order for us to work with this, we got to send a request to be the full URL/calendars. We need to pop in the calendar ID right there /free slots. And we can also see that here in the samples, it tells you more information there. Let's copy this URL, and I'm just going to copy it from here because it's easier to do. So I'm going to copy it all the way up to free slots. In order for us to work with this endpoint here, we need to do a couple of things. We're going to be sending a GET request to this URL. And as part of that GET request, we need a calendar ID, which is going to be part of the URL, which you can see here. And we can also see, if we take a look at this request sample, we can also see here how they do it, calendar ID right there. Now, as part of that calendar ID, we also need to send an end date and then a start date. Both of those, which are going to be in Unix, which I've talked about in the beginning of the video. When we get this data, let's go back to our N8N workflow. First thing that we need to do is now actually convert this to Unix. If you remember the original workflow, you need to convert that date into Unix. And it's going to be very easy to do. We're going to click on the plus, and then here we're going to search for date, click date, and we're going to click format date. Here, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be inputting the date that we just got back. I'm going to click on this plus here just so I can make these smaller. Otherwise, you got to like scroll. This is a date time that the user is looking to book. I'm going to use this as my starting date. Because again, if I go back to documentation, we need to provide a starting date and then an end date. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag this in the date right here. There you go. And you can see it gives you the result. It gives you a preview of what this is going to look, which we can see which is the same value that's here. That looks good. Now for the format, I actually want to click on it and I want to scroll all the way down and I want to click Unix in milliseconds timestamp. This is the correct one, the one that we want to do. And then for put field name, I'm going to title this start date, and we're going to test this. Now, actually, I want to rename this as well. I'm going to name this as get start date. Rename that, and then we're going to give this test. And there we have it. Now we have this Unix timestamp, but we can actually verify this. We can test this, so we can copy that. I'm going to go back here, and I'm actually going to be checking the Unix time converter. I'm going to paste that in there. I'm going to click on timestamp to human, and we can see that in our time zone, or my time zone at least, that time is Thursday the 20th at 3 p.m. just as I had said there earlier. We can easily convert that, and we can also convert a human date to Unix by clicking there. This is a great website which will also be included in the resources. Perfect. We got our start date in Unix. That works great there. The next thing, we want to create our end date. We have our start date. Now we need an end date to make that API request. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go select the next day. I'm checking from the moment that the user said they wanted to book their appointment all the way up to one more day. So 24 hours. All I'm going to do is I'm going to click the plus, and I'm going to click date. I'm going to click date and time again. And I'm going to click on add to a date. And what you can do, as it says right here, it's simply going to add more time to this date. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to be in get start date, or this is going to be the last node that ran. So maybe you named yours differently. Just make sure that you're going to be in the last one, and it should be there by default. And we're going to click on the start date, and we're going to drag that there as the date to add to. And that's okay that this comes in Unix. And next we want to add is one day. And this could be more for you. Maybe you want to add 2 days or 3 days, whatever. And here I'm just going to go leave this as default, actually. I'm going to make sure that I rename this to something that it's relevant. Get next. I'm going to test this out. And there you have it. So now we have the following day. That would be Friday at 3 p.m. I'm going to click on this pin data just so that I can work with this. Actually, I don't even need to pin this because I'm still going to have it. And there you have it. I have a new date there, and which is going to be Friday at 3 p.m. That's 24 hours. That's the following name. I'm going to click back. Next, I'm going to click this plus because now this date is not in the proper format. I want to make sure I format it. And you can accomplish this many ways. I'm just showing you one of the easier ones. I'm going to click on date. And here I'm going to format the date, which is going to be the same thing, right? This new date. I'm going to format it. I'm going to click the format. I'm going to scroll all the way down, select unit. And then for the output, I want to put this as end date. I want to make sure that it matches. It doesn't have to match at this stage, but I just wanted to make sure that it matches this. I'm going to click end. I'm going to title this as end date. And then for this, I'm going to rename this. Perfect. Let's go back to documentation. We have our end date, and then we have our start date. We need to get our calendar ID. Let's go back to GHL. I'm going to go back to setting, and I'm going to go to calendars here, and I'm going to use this one, this haircut. I'm just going to click on this copy. Next, I'm going to go back to N8N, and what I want to do is create a new HTTP request. So we're going to be making a request from N8N to GHL to get those time slots. So I'm going to type HTTP. It's going to be this HTTP request. I'm going to rename this to free. Let's go back to the documentation, actually. Be the URL that we need to send this to. And you can also see down here, there's an example. I'm going to copy this all the way up to the free slots, which is the same thing. So right here, you can just select that. I'm going to go back to N8N. I'm going to paste it. Now this is a get request, which is fine. Here we have this calendar, which obviously we need to replace it with our own calendar. I'm going to go back to GHL. I'm going to select this, go back, and I'm going to paste that in here. Perfect. We connect our calendar. Then we have the calendar ID followed get free slots. Looks good. Next, we're going to leave the authentication as none, but we're going to send headers. For the headers, let's go back to the documentation and see what's required. We need to send authorization. Always need to send authorizations. Here we can see the headers. It actually even tells you headers. I can click on that. I'm going to go back to GHL. I'm going to paste it in there. And I can and just select it. And basically, I'll just keep doing that. Now, for the authorization, this is what we need, our API token that we created. Do you remember in the beginning of the video, we created that private API token? We need to paste that in there. I'm going to go back to N8N here. And when I paste that, I want to make sure that I add the word bear, like that space, and then that API tokens. And again, you can see this in documentation. There is bearer, and then there's a space there followed by that token there, right? So, and you can just copy this if you like. Since I feel like I misspelled things, so you can just paste that in there. Then the last thing that we want to add here, I believe is going to be our version. We take a look here, yep, version, and then we want to copy this, and that's going to go in there. This is going to be what we're going to be sending in the header. We're going to send the accept, the authorization with our API key that we got from the private integrations, and then version. All of this comes from the documentation here. It's telling us what to send. And again, we can see the sample there. Perfect. That looks good. Let me see. We got the calendar up. I believe that's going to be it. I don't think we need anything else. So not true. Now we need to send the query parameters where we need to send the end date and then the start date. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back and send query parameters. You can see that we have that right here. I'm going to turn it on. For the name, that's going to be the name that is provided in the documentation, which is going to be end date and start date. I'll copy that there as well. And then I'll even add another one. Now we have our start date and end date. And what we want to do here is, let me go back. We want to execute previous nodes. And what we're going to get is the end date. We can verify this. We can double click on that and go back to this timestamp website. We can paste that in there, and this should be Friday, which it is Friday the 21st at 3 p.m. That checks out. I'm going to, for the end date here, I'm going to click on this and drag it in there, end date. Now for the start date, I'm going to click here where it says get end date. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click get start date. So this had a start date, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to select that. Just perfect. Everything else looks good. I'm going to click test. Now we can see that we've received this response back from GHL, which contains the empty time slots. For the 20th, we have 2 time slots at 3 and 4. And then Friday, we have from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. These are the time slots available for these particular days. If we would have put more than one day, we would have got more than one day. This is only 2 days worth, if you will. So now we want to filter this data. We received the empty time slots, again, for this particular days. And what happens is when you put a start date and end date right here, the time that you put honestly doesn't matter. It's going to return you all the time slots for that entire day. So just keep that in mind. That's like the way GHL works. That's just a GHL thing. It's going to return all the time slots for that particular day. Just FYI. Here we have this day, and now we want to filter this data to see if the time that the user requested is available, or if we need to recommend other time slots. Let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to click on this plus. We're going to be using a code node here to determine that data. And I'm going to walk you through the code. And again, it will all be down included. You can ask for Claude for help with this. You can also do this using an LLM. Now, the reason I don't want to, for example, send this data over to ChatGPT is because it can be a delay. ChatGPT can be down and there could be an issue. And now my whole call is being delayed because of that. So I find that for that reason, code is just going to work much better. I will include this down below and I'll walk you through what this does. I'm going to rename this. It's going to hit slots. I don't know what to call this. All right. So let's go through the code here. First, we want to get the target date time. And I'm going to delete this so you see. And the target date time is that date time that the user wanted to book their appointment. So they said, hey, I want to make an appointment on Thursday at 12 p.m. That's the date time that we want to get. And that came from our webhook. So we go back to webhook. Here, when we check on arguments, if we go all the way down, args, that's what that is, we have this appointment date time. That is the appointment that the user wanted to book. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, and I'm going to drag that right here, where it's target date, because that's the appointment that the user wanted. Next, we're taking the data from the last node. That's what this is, this input.first.json. It's this data here, this object. And you can see it's this whole object. It's this object contains 3 items. It contains this particular date, it contains the second one, and then it contains this trace ID. So that's what this is, this input first.json. It's just this value. That's what we're looping through, okay? The next portion here is that we're just formatting it. This is formatting it like format times. Instead of getting the time in 24 hours, I'm getting 12 hours. Again, this is totally optional. You don't have to do this. I want, instead of saying, hey, the appointment is available at 1500 hours, I want to say it's available at 3 p.m. That's what that is. Same thing with this here. This is just for getting the day of the week. Instead of saying, hey, Thursday the 20th, I want to say, or February 20th, I want to say Thursday. That's what I'm doing here. Then this, finally, it's just basically, if we take a look, we have all these free slots. We're just combining them into one array, into one object, so that they're easy to search. That's all this is happening here. Instead of having 2, We're combining them all into one. That's all that is. Next, we're going to check if that date time is present, if that our original target date time, in this example, Thursday at 12 or Thursday at 3, I forget what it is. If that's included in there, then return it. And when you return it, I want you to return it like the day, like Thursday at 4 p.m. is available. And you can change this. You can choose to return it a different way. You can include this code in like Claude and change it and modify it, or you can just use like ChatGPT. Next, if that time is not available, then we want to return the next 2 times that are available. And what we're doing here is we're creating a couple of variables where we have the closest before. So maybe I say 3 p.m. I want to maybe give them one before, which could be like 1 p.m. But if there's not one before, then I just want to do the next 2 after. Hopefully that makes sense. And that's what we're doing here. We're checking to see if from that time that the user selected, can we check before and see if there's an appointment available before? If there's not, okay, not a problem. Let's check after. And then once we find the next appointment after, let's find the next one after that as well. We always return 2 free slots. Hopefully that makes sense. And that's what that is. Finally, we end up just returning that there, which you can see Thursday at 3 p.m. is available. And this right here comes from here, from this result, from us saying, if that target date time is present, it's included in that array in these time slots, then return this right here, which is the same as that. Hopefully that makes sense. And I'm going to go back. Now we can click on save. I'm going to go back to retail. Now here we had our test webhook, but now what we want to do is, because now we verified it, we checked and it works. It's returning this result with, that's what retail needs, this return result. And we're saying that time is available. You want to click on webhook and we want to click on production URL here. We want to click on that. And we want to go back to retail, and we actually want to switch this URL. Before we were using test. Now, because we know that it works, we're going to click on plug and we're going to save this. So this should automatically save. Let me go back. Okay, no, it didn't. Oh, here we go. Update. So I got to click on update. I'm going to update that. Give me invalid JSON. What's happening here? Let me refresh this. Click on function. We're going to click this plus. I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to update invalid JSON schema. So I don't know why that's giving me that error. I'm just going to select my schema. I don't think they changed it. I don't know what happened there, but it's the exact same schema there before, so I'm not entirely sure. Okay, so I'm going to click this plus. I can see that my webhook changed. Let's test this out now. Okay, let me make sure that my N8N workflow is actually live, which it should be. Let's test it out now.
Thank you for calling Aria Beverly Hills. This is Sarah. How may I help you?
Hey, Sarah, I want to make an appointment for a woman's haircut Friday at 2 p.m.
Let me check availability for a women's haircut on Friday at 2 p.m. One moment, please. It looks like I need to check again for availability. Would you like to consider nearby times, or should I check another time range?
Can you check the following Wednesday at 11 a.m.?
Checking availability for a women's haircut on Wednesday at 11 a.m. I need to check again for availability. Would you like to consider nearby time?
So something's going on there. There's some sort of issue, so let's find out, and this will be a great way to troubleshoot things. I'm going to go back to call history, and I want to take a look at the last call. Here it is, and we can see it called it. It sent the time. I believe I said Friday at 2 p.m., so there's Friday. There's the service, and then it called it, and it sent me this message, workflow has started. Perfect. Okay. And I totally forgot to do that. This is a great example here. What we want to do is we want to click on our webhook, and here under response, this is responding immediately. What this means is that as soon as retail sends us a call, and it's going to say, cool, we got it. And we don't want to do that. We only want to respond when the last node finishes. We're going to click on that last node finishes and then leave this as default, because what's going to happen is we want to respond with the data from this last one here, which is this results. We want to respond with Thursday at 3 p.m. is available. Hopefully that makes sense. Now when you click on save, again, make sure that you check response to response when the last node finishes. I'm going to go back to retail. Now that's saved, and let's give us another shot.
Thank you for calling Aria Beverly Hills. This is Sarah. How may I help you?
Hey, Sarah, I want to book a haircut for Thursday at 1 p.m.
Great choice. Just to confirm, you want a women's haircut. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Let me check availability for your haircut appointment. Unfortunately, there are no openings at 1 p.m. However, we have availability at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. Would either of those times work for you?
Can we do 4 p.m.?
Perfect. I'll book your haircut for Thursday at 4 p.m. Can I have your name and best phone number, please?
Okay, cool. Let's check our call logs, and that should be good. You can see that was the issue there. Really back. We can check the tool results, and then here under the tool results, I'm going to move myself. We can see that we returned it because that particular time was not available. We actually ended up returning the closest to time. And if I go back to N8N here and we go to executions, we can see our last execution here. Let's click on, and we're going to see the response. We're going to see the initial request. And we take a look at the arcs. So here it is again. Let's see appointment time. We can see it came in just fine. We created the start date. We got the next day. Then we created the end date. We checked the slots from GHL, which you gave us the slots from GHL. Finally, we return the next 2 times that are available for booking, since the one that the user wanted originally was not available. So that's what this is coming from. And it's coming from right here. If there's no closest time, closest before, then we're going to return these two, which fulfill the values there. And you can see that it returned it as the actual time, and Retell still gave it to me as a human time. We can see it send it back in a typical time format, but it told me we have 3 or 4 p.m. available. That's one of the things that I do really like about Retell there. Now let's take a look at our roadmap here, or our flow. And we already went through all of this. We got the user's preferred date and time. We converted it to units. We made the API request directly to GHL. We got the response, and we checked whether the time slots were available or not. If they were not available, we informed the user and we gave them those recommended time slots, those other 2 time slots. Once that time slot is available, we want to confirm, inform the user, and now we want to get the user's name, phone number, and basically check that contact. That's going to be the next portion of our workflow here. Next, we want to create the book appointment function here. This is once the user confirms the appointment. Again, we're going to be confirming that date and time that we got back with the user. We're going to be asking them for their name and best phone number. And once we get that, we're going to call the function book appointment there. That's what we want to create. I'm just going to select this, and I'm going to go paste it here. I'm going to click on add. I'm going to click on custom function, and I'm just going to paste that. Again, you can name this whatever you like. And I'm going to catalyst uses to. Next, I want to do my URL there. For this, I'm going to go back to N8N, and I'm going to create a new workflow for this. And you can see I just gave it a name here. And I want to do the same thing where I want to create another webhook. I'm going to type webhook. I'm going to select my webhook there. And this is going to be a post request as well there. I'm going to click on the test URL here. So you can see test. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go back to Retell. Then I'm going to paste that in there. Next, I'm going to do the same thing as the last one, add my parameters, so the data that I want to collect. And I'm going to go back to this again. This will also be included down at the resources. But here what we're doing is I want to get the user's phone number. We're asking for the phone number. I want to get this and just make sure that it's formatted properly, meaning that it has the +1. I want to get the user's name, the service, which we already had gotten previously, and then with the appointment date time for their appointment. All of these are going to be required there. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back and paste that in there. And that looks good. Speak during execution. I could add something like, let me book that appointment for you. This typically doesn't even get used. So I'm going to put that in there. And that looks good. I got my function name. I got my information here on my schema. Got my test webhook. You click on save. And I'm going to test this. Now, again, I want to make sure that I clicked listen for test. But I'm going to click on this as I'm going through the conversation, because I don't want to make sure that it doesn't time out. I'm going to go back here, go back to Retell and test this out.
Thank you for calling Aria Beverly Hills. This is Sarah. How may I help you?
Hey, Sarah, I want to make an appointment for a haircut for next Wednesday at 12 p.m.
Great choice. Just to confirm, you want a women's haircut, correct?
Yes.
Let me check on that for you. Unfortunately, 12 p.m. next Wednesday isn't available. However, I can offer you Friday at 12 p.m. Would that work for you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. May I have your name and best phone number, please?
Alex Rodriguez, and my phone number is 310-980-4245.
Let's book that appointment for you. Your appointment for a women's haircut on Friday at 12 p.m. is confirmed. Please bring any inspiration photos you might have.
Perfect. We can see that we received that data there. And again, you saw that I waited before pressing the listen for events because this does time out. And if I click here again, just so that I can have some space to work with or I can see properly, we can see that we got those arguments. Those arguments are exactly what we expected from our book of appointments here. Client phone, client name, service, all that stuff. It's all there. We can see the phone number here, the name, the service, and then the date of time for this appointment. If we take a look at the transcript or the call logs, we take a look here. I said next Wednesday was not available, but the Friday at 12 p.m. was. So we can see the results that was there. It gave us that time slot there. And we can go back here, check this appointment. Now, obviously, we didn't finish booking the appointment. We can see that we got this message workflow got started there. Next, let's search for this contact. We got the appointment time. We got the user's name and phone number. Now that we have this information, let's actually search for this contact. That's the next step, right? We want to see if this person is in our GHL system. And if not, we're going to create a new contact. We're going to click on the plus and we're going to create an HTTP request. This HTTP request is going to be sent to GHL where we are going to search contacts. Let's take a look at the documentation. We're going to scroll down here and we're going to click on contacts. I don't see that. Maybe search contacts. So right here. And this is going to be a post request. So let me fix this. Let me just copy this also. I'm going to copy the URL. I'm going to go back to GHL. This is going to be a post request. I'm going to paste that URL there. I'm going to send headers. I'm also going to be sending a body. I'm going to go back to GHL and I'm going to send body and I'm going to fill in the parameters. It's going to be the same thing as the previous ones. That's going to be our accept, authorization, content type, version. And you can always see that by the request sample here. I know this only tells you authorization, but it's good habit to send the accept and the content type. So always just follow what's here there. I'm going to fill those out. Okay, perfect. I filled out all the values. So I got accept, authorization with my token that I got from my private key, the content type and the version. I grabbed all of these from right here. And obviously I just put in my authorization token there. Next is we need to send the body. Now, if we take a look further into the documentation, the way we're going to search for contacts is going to be through a filter. We're going to be using a filter where we're going to be checking for, and there's many ways that you can use this to search for contacts. You can search things like it equals, or it contains this first name, or it contains this last name, or it contains this email, things like that. All this documentation will be included down below and you can search through it and go through it yourself. But you can see that there's a whole bunch of stuff. We can search by first name, by business name, by email, by D&D, all sorts of stuff. We're going to be searching by phone number. That's the main method that we're going to be using to finding a contact. And let's take a look at what that data is going to look like. This is going to be our JSON. We're going to be changing this to our location ID. We go back to, you can read all these instructions here. It's quite a bit. I don't want to bore you through it, so definitely check it out. But what we're going to be sending here is our location ID. So let's go back to business and copy that. I'm going to replace it, which I guess I already had done that. Here we're going to put the page. So how many pages of contacts do we want? Now, because we're only searching for one contact and there should only be one contact with that phone number, we shouldn't have any duplicates. This only needs to be one page. And then the page limit should also be one because there should only really be one contact with that phone number. For our filters, what we're saying is we want the phone number to equal the phone number that was provided to us in the retail, in the data that we got from N8N. We take a look at the data, again, scroll down. Here we have the phone number, client phone number. Here it is. So that's what we're going to be using there. And again, this will make sense as we fill this out. I'm going to remove this for now. Next is the sorted. How do we want to sort this? And we just want to sort them by first name ascending order. Once we find someone that has a phone number, we just want to sort them by that way. And this doesn't really matter because again, there should only be one contact. I'm going to select this. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back to N8N here. And I'm going to go here for the body where I want to click on body. It's going to be JSON, but I want to use, instead of using fields below, I want to click on this and click on using JSON. So I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to paste that JSON data that I share with you. I'm going to click on expression there. Now, I want to add the value. That's going to be the phone number. The phone number is going to go in here. And this phone number is right here, client's phone. And I'm simply going to click on that. I want to test this step. I'm going to click test. And we can see that this returned a 0. This means that this contact is not in GHL. Otherwise, it would have returned a 1. And let's test that out. We can see this phone number. Let's go to GHL. I don't even think I have any contacts in there. If we go back to GHL, I'm going to refresh this. You can see we got one contact, and that phone number ends in 56. And the phone number that we have in here is something else. So it doesn't exist. Now, if I did put that phone number, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back to N8N. And instead of passing this phone number, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass that other phone number just so we can test it out. I'm going to do just like that. Actually, I didn't need to add that. Plus, I'm going to test it out. You can see that now it actually gives me back that contact with all that data. And it's just a 1. When it finds it, it's going to be total. It's going to be 1. When it doesn't, it's going to be 0, or we're going to get an error. And again, you can see that here we have that information. Alex Rodriguez, we have that phone number. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, when it finds it, it's going to return a 1. And when it doesn't, it's going to return a 0. We can put this back how it was. We'll go test it out. And we can see that the total is now 0, as it should be, because it's not in there. I'm going to go click back. Now what I want to do is I want to click this plus, and I'm going to type switch here. And the reason that I want to type switch is because depending on what I'm getting back, so depending whether there's a value that was returned and it was 1, right? It found a contact, or it was 0 and there was no contact, or possibly even an error. I want something else to happen. I need to return something. So here, I'm just going to do a switch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select total here. So I'm going to drag that in there. So if the total is a number and is equal to 0, it means that there's nothing in there. I'm actually going to label this contact status. If it's 0, it means that it's not in there. I'm actually going to title this as not found, because if the value equals 0, it means that there was no contact, there was nothing found. I'm going to add another routing rule right there. And same thing, I'm going to drag this in there. And I want this to be, if it's equal to 1, it's equal to 1 here. That means that we found the contact. There's something in there. I'm going to type this as found. And I'm also going to click on add options here. And I'm going to add a fallback output, which I'm going to click on another option here. Excuse me. I'm going to click on none. And I'm going to add an extra output. I click on options, and I'm going to rename the fallback, which this could be like error. Like if it's not a 0 or a 1, it's going to be something else, either some sort of error or something like that. I'm going to test this out. And of course, this is going to go to the not found because it was a 0. There was no contacts. Now I want to do a couple of things here. If there's an error, I need to return something to retail. So just to let retail know that, hey, we have an error. I'm just going to title this return error. Oops, that's not how you spell it. All I'm going to do is I'm going to return a value, which is literally going to be this. It's going to say return, and the result is going to be like, hey, I'm having some sort of issues because we couldn't find the contact. For some reason, we couldn't book their appointments. We're letting them know. We're going to add that. Now also really quick, on my webhook, when I click on this, and remember the response, that needs to be when the last node finishes. So when the last node finishes, if there was an error, it's going to return this value saying, hey, I apologize, where it seems we're having an issue. Hopefully that makes sense there. Next, if it didn't find the contact right now, we need to create a contact. I'm going to click plus. I'm going to click HTTP. I'm going to type HTTP request there because we need to make a request to GHL to create a contact. And I'm going to delete this really quick. I'm going to just duplicate this one just so that it's easier because I won't have to type a lot of stuff up. I'm going to click on that, and I'm simply going to rename this as create a contact. And let's take a look at the documentation for them. We're going to go to create a contact here. It's going to be a post request. It's going to be different. I'm going to copy this URL. There's my URL, and I'm going to go back, and I want to make sure I paste that in there. Contacts, perfect. All this stuff should be the same from the previous request. I shouldn't have to make sure I rename that. I'm going to leave all of this. I want to make sure that this version number though matches, because sometimes depending on the request that can be different. So this is 0728. Perfect. That should be fine. The other thing that's required here is going to be this location ID, but we can send all this other information such as a name, phone number, address, all these things that we can add to it. I'm going to go back to N8N. I'm actually going to copy this location ID here. I'm going to go back, and in body, instead of doing the body JSON in this example, I'm just simply going to say define fields below. And I'm going to be sending the location ID here, which we're going to be able to grab this shortly here. Let me see once I connect. This is going to be for the not found. We're going to get the location ID. that location ID is going to come from, well, actually, I'm going to fill that location ID. What am I saying? I'm going to go to settings and I'm going to click on location ID. I'm going to go to N8N and just paste that in there. Perfect. Next thing is I want to add a name. So that's going to be the name. And I'm not going to do like first name or anything because if we take a look at documentation, we can just do name and then that will split it for us. We don't have to do it. And I'm also going to be adding a phone. Here we have phone. I'm going to add those two other fields. I'm going to name and phone. For the name, I'm going to go back to the webhook and I'm going to scroll all the way down. Here we have the user's name, the client's name. I'm going to drag that in there. And then I'm going to drag in the phone there. Those are the three things that I'm going to send to create this contact. And you can see the preview there. That looks good. I got my API key, everything there. I'm going to click on test step and this should create a contact for us. And you can see it took a little bit of time. But now we have this contact, and with this contact, we have the contact ID. And if we take a look at the workflows here, contact ID is one of the things that we require to make that appointment. That's why we made that there. I'm going to go back here. Now we have our contact ID. Perfect. I'm going to duplicate this again because again, I don't want to keep typing the same stuff up. I'm going to duplicate this. But now this one is going to be, this request is going to be to actually book the appointment because we have everything we need now. So this is going to be to book appointment. Go ahead and rename this. I'm going to go back to the GHL documentation and we are going to scroll up. We're going to go to calendar events here and then we are going to go to create appointment right here. Click on that. I'm going to copy this URL. It's going to be another post request and I'm going to paste that in there. All this should still be fine. My body is most likely going to be different. So let's take a look at what we're going to be sending here. With the body, we're going to be sending calendar ID, location, obviously the contact, and then the start time is the only thing that's required here. Let me do that now. Location ID is fine. I'm going to get rid of name and phone number because we didn't need that, but we need another parameter for calendar ID. I'm going to go back to GHL. I'm going to go to my calendars. And I'm going to select that calendar ID here, which again, you can select your calendar there. I'm going to paste that here. I'm going to add another parameter. I believe we need to send the contact ID. The contact ID is right here. We just got that contact ID because we just created that contact. And one of the things that it returns is that ID. I'm going to drag that in here. And then the last thing that we need is, let's see, we need that start time. When is that appointment going to be booked? We're going to paste that in there. And we're going to go to our webhook. I'm going to click here and I'm going to click on the webhook and I'm going to scroll all the way down because we got that appointment time right here. And this time has already been confirmed to be available. I'm going to drag that in here and perfect. We have everything we need. We have all of our authorization there. We're sending the location ID, calendar ID, contact ID, and then the start time for this particular appointment, which is all the requirements for all these 4 requirements. Let's go ahead and send that over. And what we should get from here is a status. Here we have status as booked. We can see that the appointment has been booked and confirmed for, I don't know what the date was. The date was Friday at, let me see, 12 p.m. Let's take a look at, we should have 2 contacts. There's that contact. Let's go to our calendars and let's go to our appointments. We can see that we have an appointment here at 12 p.m. I now have 2 different Alexes, and this is the Alex with the 4145, which is that one that was just created here. And we can verify that. We take a look at the create contact, 40, perfect. That's working. Next, I'm going to save this before I forget. I want to add another check status. And the only reason that I'm going to be adding another switch module here, or it's basically just to check the status of the appointment. Because it could be errors, I want to take that into account and send that information over to retail just in case there are errors. I'm going to click here. I'm going to click on the switch again. Okay, I can't spell. I'm going to click on the switch. And what I want to do here is I want to check the status. What we're getting from GHL once we submit this appointment is the status. And this is going to tell us either it's going to be booked or it's going to tell us like some sort of error. I want to check for this. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to drag it in here and I'm going to put, is it booked? Does this equal booked essentially? And I'm going to rename this and just title it booked. Another thing that this could return is a 400 error. If we check status, this could also return a number which is equal to 400, meaning that there was an error like not found, or I forget exactly, but it's just an error code there. So not available. It's actually what that means. So I'm going to type not available. And then we're going to have If you just give me this error, it's okay because right now it's saying that it's not a string, it's returning a string. But once it's a 400 error, it's actually going to be a number. So we can leave that like that. It's totally fine. I do want to add another use case for any sort of other error. And I'm going to add a fallback. And I'm going to go add extra output. And I'm going to rename that I'm just going to rename it for my sake, really. And I'm just going to title this error. I'm going to test this step. And it's going to be a booked. And I want to send that information over to retail. And I'm going to copy this response really quick. If it's booked, I'm going to add a code node, which is going to return a response to retail. All this is going to say is your appointment has been booked. I'm going to title this appointment retail response. I'm going to rename that. Perfect. Style execution. I'm going to create another one that takes care of the booked. There's going to be the not available. I'm going to do one for that as well. And I'm going to retitle this appointment not available response there. I'm going to erase this. And just going to copy this over, just a basic response there. Sorry, seems like that appointment was taken. I'm going to go back. Now that use case is handled where it's booked, it's not available. And last thing, we do want to send an error there. Also, just in case there's some sort of other error, really. And I'm going to add another, click that. I'm going to add another code node. And I'm going to delete this. I'm going to paste it, just saying, hey, I apologize. There seems to be an error. I'm going to title this reach over. Perfect. So now that we have our contact now found, we're going to create a new contact, then we book the appointment, then we send that information back to retail. If we have an error, we send that information back to retail. What if we do find that contact for them to test this out? And what we're going to do is I'm going to type that contact information. Actually, let's test this out again. We click test. Now we're going to find that contact because previously there wasn't there. Now it is there. Now you can see that I found it right away. Now we're going to test our switch node, and if we click test, we can see that we have found one because if we scroll here, we can see the total is not one. And I'm going to move this out of here. We can see that the total is not one. I'm going to go back, and now that our contact is found, we want to book that appointment. And I'm going to click, actually, I'm going to duplicate this book appointment here. I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to drag it here. I'm going to connect it. I'm going to click into it. What's going on here? Perfect. And this is going to be book appointment. This is existing contact. The only thing that I'm going to replace is going to be this contact ID. And now if we take a look at the last node, the contact status said that it was there because we did get a 1. So that contact was found. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this ID and I'm simply going to drag that there. That's all I got to do here. And I'm going to click on test. And now this is going to say bad request. So now let's see where it says bad request. This is a slot that I basically saying that the slot that I chose was no longer available because I already had booked it. That's to be expected. And that's also what I meant by the error code was going to be for. Now that we got that, I can actually just drag this up to here. And you know what? I'm actually going to make this slightly better because they're basically going to go to the same thing. And if we take a look at this now, if I run this switch node here, I zoom in here. If I run this, oops, I gotta run the one before. I want to go ahead and create thing here, which is another, I'm glad this happened. We need to output some data. Always output data there. That way it's just, it doesn't stop. I can also change these as well, especially the booking appointment. I'm going to change this one to always output data too, because if there is an error, we don't want it to just stop. And I do want that data back. I'm going to just output data there. I'm going to click on this again and I'm going to run it. And let me see, I click on output data, always output data, stop workflow. Oh, sorry, continue, error, pass the error message and continue there. I'm going to click on that. And then we can see that the name of the status is 400. Also really quick, I also want to make sure that I always output data and then that on error, I click on continue. And I want to make sure that I do this for all of them because what's going to happen is if there is an error, especially here, I want to make sure that I output it and I don't just stop the workflow, but I continue it. That way I can respond back to retail. I'm going to select that for these as well. I just want to make sure that it doesn't get stuck and the user's not just there waiting for like a response. I at least want to tell them if there is an issue. I'm going to click that. Here, I pass on the message. You can see that I tested it. And because I clicked on continue and always output data, we see that we have a status of 400. Now when I do this switch node, previously it was booked because it was booked. So the success went fine. Now we're checking to see if it matches 400, which let's find out what I didn't. So I'm actually going to switch. This is what we tested because it's perfect. you can see that it's going to give me, oh, this is actually a status 422, not a 400, which is, let me see what it says. I don't know. It is 400. What am I saying? Status 400 right here. I'm going to select this. I'm going to drag this on there. Now that we have all this built, let's test it out. And to make sure that it's actually working, I'm going to go to my webhook. I want to make sure that the response is going to be the last node finish. So I'm going to have the first entry, which should be the default. I want to click on the production URL. I'm going to copy. And I want to make sure that's what I have selected in retail here. So I'm going to go to functions. I'm going to go to book appointment. And here you can see that I have the test switch out for the production URL. And I'm going to update this. I don't know where it says. I don't know why it keeps doing the invalid. Copy the same, the exact same thing. Paste it in. I don't know why that's happening. Okay. Let's test this out now.
Thank you for calling Aria Beverly Hills. This is Sarah. How may I help you?
Hey, Sarah, I want to make an appointment for next Wednesday at 1 p.m. for a woman's haircut.
Great choice. Let me check availability for a women's haircut next Wednesday at 1 p.m. One moment, please. I found an available slot for your women's haircut next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Would you like to confirm this appointment?
Yeah, let's book that.
The best phone number to reach you?
My name is Kevin Smith, and my phone number is 323-515-4253.
Let book that appointment for you. Your appointment for a women's haircut is successfully booked for next Wednesday at 1 p.m.
Okay, cool. So let's analyze that now. That whole let me book that for you, that came from here. You can see that I didn't actually even spell that. Let book that for you. It says some weird. That's where that came from. And it looks like it took over 2 seconds. That's a good example of when you're going to see this show up. Let's take a look at the call logs real quick here. You call the tools, passed over the information that we wanted, and we can see that appointment was then booked. The appointment was for the 26th. Let me move myself at 1 p.m. And it's the 26th. Yep, so that's next Wednesday. We'll take a look in GHL and see if that appointment has been booked. So there we have it, Kevin Smith on the 26th at 1 p.m. And we take a look at the contacts. Then we also have a new contact. And if we take a look at the execution logs here from N8N, we can see the latest one. We received them. Let's scroll all the way down here. We got the Kevin Smith woman's haircut, appointment time. Everything it looks great. We got it. We got the contact. Was not found. They created a new contact and then booked that appointment for us. So everything is working perfect. Hopefully you found this video helpful and you have a better understanding of how you can book appointments directly to GHL from retail using N8N and private integrations. If you need help implementing any of this yourself, click on the description below. Thank you.